really that night of review to try to make a couple of changes. Practice time is there. Let's see what it ends up spelling for these squads, as it'll be Elise banned out by CLG and 100 Thieves, the all-reliable. You can't see her in her smoke screen, and you can't see her on Summoner's Rift in professional play. Akali banned out.
Yeah, that's going to be one that gets continually banned until nerfs are happening. And as you can see at the top of the screen, this is patch 10.2, which is the same patch that is on the live servers right now. In week 1, we played on patch 10.1, and something that always happens at the start of any pro season is it's a copycat league. The LCS, the LCK, the LPL, all of them. They're all just trying to look to see what other people are doing because that can reaffirm what you're doing works. Yeah. That always becomes harder when you're on a new patch. It's the hardest at the start of the year, and it's extremely hard when new champions come out. So Set is an example of that. And another thing that's throwing a curveball this week would be that Soraka top that we saw G2 actually pull out twice just this week.
Soraka top can also be played as the bottom laner, not the support, so we'll see if it falls into either of those unorthodox roles here today. Senna, Gangplank, Rumble, Tom Kench, all banned away. Kench, one of those champions that keeps things like the Aphelios and the Misfortune that are popular in the meta on AD carry alive, protects them better, and considering he's banned away, why not pick up something that's not only a mobile marksman, but one that can be flexed to solo lanes as well?
Yeah, and Lucian was banned the majority of games in week 1. As we we see Set in the first game as the second overall pick.
With Someday, no less, one of the most fun top laners to watch in the LCS. Going to be locking in the boss here, and we'll see how he deals with his opponents. It's also Xayah picked up in first rotation here by 100 Thieves.
Yeah, probably going to be paired with a Rakan unless you want to actually waste a pick to take that away to go with Lucian. But the larger question here to me is how quickly CLG is going to pivot around a set pick. Because when I look at the kit, not necessarily the tuning, the question becomes, is this long-term viable in pro play? I don't necessarily think it will be a meta pick for a long time because of the things you can pick around Set, the compositions it goes into, because it is a highly kiteable champion who is strong when you come to him.
Right.
So with Lucian already locked in as a potential top lane pick, how much is CLG going to put into their team composition that has to go into Set versus just stuff that can kite?
Right, so many of the Set montage clips, the pop-off moments that you see start off with 3 people dogpiling onto him, which is exactly where he wants his opponents to be. Aphelios locked in, Leona locked in for the bottom lane here of CLG. We'll see if 6A and Smoothie can find the damage they need there in that 2v2 up against, as you predicted, the Xayah and Rakan.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of positional matching in the first phase of draft, a lot more than usual. A lot of times there's these desyncs. That's not the case right here. I think with Senna already being a ban, the Aphelios was a logical pick early on, but as you can see now, it's most likely just the mid lane and jungle that are going to be picked next. And I'm a little surprised, actually, that 100 Thieves isn't trying a bit harder to pitch the jungle pool since they have first pick.
Yeah, and 100 Thieves having banned the Tom Kench away, remember, they had the option to pick the Aphelios as well. If they wanted to go with Xayah instead, they were fine giving the Aphelios away to CLG. LeBlanc and Diana banned out by the Thieves. Syndra banned out by CLG. So 3 out of 3 of these second phase bans focused on that mid lane. We'll see what CLG wants to go with for that 5th final.
Yeah, we'll see if the rest of these compositions end up being kind of early game skirmish style champions like a lot of the meta ended up being last year, or if we're going to see more Victor Oriana type scaling stuff, which found a lot of success in week 1, knowing that these are 2 teams that weren't necessarily the most apt at closing out games quickly. Jarvan is just a generic pick that's safe before they round out the composition with the mid lane.
Right, pretty much any jungler that's going to make something happen at level 3, one of those guys that can hit the level 3 point, just start ganking, start being active on the map is what you want to see. The Jarvan is locked in. Soraka, remember, if this is picked, this could go top lane. Do you want to go with that? It looks like no, at least not right now. Rek'Sai locked in there, so another one of those powerful early junglers.
I wouldn't completely hate it if they actually are considering the Soraka versus just a hover. It would be a pick that Set would have a really hard time punishing. It would mean you can kite and basically force 100 Thieves to completely all in on you while trying to sustain it. Probably just a hover though, as they're now hovering Kayle.
Not just a hover, Kayle locked in.
Okay. just taking a second to process.
Yeah, it's one of those that you have to breathe in, breathe out a little bit.
So we know the answer to our previous question of are they going to be picking for early game or late game?
Yeah.
They're going late. This is actually flexible. They can put the Kayle top into the set. Once it's level 6, it can actually farm pretty easily. And it's actually, we talked about this a lot at Worlds when we were wondering if it was going to be a meta pick there in the early days. If the other team can't accelerate the game, the first 6 levels are actually not that bad.
Yeah.
So they have until 20 seconds to swap the Lucian and the Kayle between mid and top. It's probably better if Lucian's mid, if I'm being completely honest, against the Zoe, because the Kayle should be able to at least play defensively early on into the set.
Yeah, play defensively till 6, and like you said, once she has the ranged auto attack, a ranged auto attacker should never be in range for set to walk up and face break you into a minion or something. He doesn't have the tools to close the gap. The champion does not have the utility.
Ruin can even CS from range with early points E, and if someday ever tries to go on him without flash, he can just Q him as he walks towards it. There's a chance Kayle is an extremely good pick into set. I haven't seen the matchup, I'm just kind of theorizing.
Right, I mean, we haven't seen most matchups for set in pro play yet, considering the champion is only just now available for pro play. But we're going to get to see the Kayle versus set, see how the scaling works out there as we're ready to load into the Rift here. Bottom lane, both AD carries packing a lot of punch. Mid lane, Ryoma on the Zoe. That's a lot of pick potential working together with your Jarvan, with your Rakan. 100 Thieves will have the tools in that kit to make sure they can find picks as the game progresses.
Yeah, and it's going to be very crucial that they're able to get clean initiations onto Aphelios. That's the champion that I'm looking at. A lot of times you'll see Aphelios paired with Braum or Tahm Kench because it is a champion that needs peel assistance. Unless Kayle is with the team, there's nothing good to peel Aphelios. So Stixxay is the most vulnerable player on CLG this game.
Crowd's ready, we're ready. Let's get into some League of Legends. Kicking off week 2 here, CLG and 100 Thieves, both looking for that first really convincing win here in LCS 2020. Out onto the Rift, taking a look here at summoner spells, keystones, all that. You will see fleet footwork on the Kayle on the top side, provides that much more kiting capability up against the set. Set also going to be running Conqueror this game. You see a few different keystones on him, Grasp of the Undying sometimes, but maximum damage on the Conqueror this time around. But while we're waiting for the minions to spawn, Avali is standing by with a sideline report with 100 Thieves coach.
Thanks, guys. I've got Zix with me, and actually, we can take a look at this level 1 that's happening right now. Oh, Stixxay got away. Okay, so back to the interview. We take those. This is the first time that we are now seeing set in the pro play for the LCS. So what are your hopes for Someday on this champion and how it's going to fit into this team comp?
So, I mean, Someday's been a big 1v9er when he plays this champ, so I'm pretty confident in him. They have like a pretty low range comp that wants to like dive in, and that's like Set's comfort zone. So I think we're feeling pretty good about this draft.
Now, one thing that I wanted to ask you about was the Kayle versus Set matchup in the top lane, just because we haven't seen, so much of competitive play. So how do you think this matchup is going to work?
I mean, it seems like a scaling matchup. We've never really like practiced against this, so we wouldn't know it like super well, but I mean, I guess we'll see.
We'll see. Fingers crossed for Someday up there. Zix, thank you and best of luck. Back to you guys.
I'm really curious to see the same thing. As Zix says, we'll have to see how this matchup goes. A lot of crazy stuff happening at level 1, though. The invade happened. Stixxay had to burn his flash, which means Wiggly wanted to try and steal the red, knowing his red is in danger. And Someday actually sacks some early wave experience to help out Meteos in the jungle. That's a move you're very grateful for as a jungler. See if Meteos can make something happen with this basically free red buff.
Crown, still level 1, so doesn't have the dash to get away there from Meteos, but he stays back far enough that the Jarvan gank isn't going to be successful. Ryoma now with a level 2 advantage, knows that he's got the edge in these trades here. Sleepy Trouble Bubble, Paddle Star. Crown dashes forward, finds a little bit of damage in trade.
Yeah, that's likely a decent trade for Lucian, although doesn't have that corrupting potion yet, can still sustain up pretty well with the Doran's Blade. Getting the flash and the heal out of Stixxay, who's already a fairly low mobility champion early, is just so big for the Xayah Rakan. On top of being able to deny Wiggly red buff, it allows Xayah Rakan to just play so incredibly aggressive into the Leona Aphelios lane. Look, still 0 CS on Stixxay because they burned his summoners early and have been playing that lane aggressively.
Ruin will just keep farming up nice and easy here on the top side. Someday hanging back, doesn't want to push his luck considering he did fall behind an EXP a bit. Means he's level 2 versus level 3 up against this Kayle. Teleport count on both sides. It's both solo laners on CLG running them. Only one on the side 100 Thieves rocking the TP, so that's going to be a global disadvantage that we're going to have to keep track of as this game goes on in regards to how 100 Thieves wants to position around the map.
For sure, and Meteos has complete say over how 100 Thieves positions on the map right now because he did control red buffs, his bottom lane is pushed, and he had first recall as well as a sweeper that's ready to go. So no one on CLG is actually in a position to be able to make a play right now, and Meteos needs to decide where to go.
Mid lane, Ryoma's not going to get a trouble bubble onto Crown, but he'll just continue to maintain control over this wave. He's got the shove, he's got the priority. Crown will be left to deal with that while Ryoma does duck into the bottom side brush here. He'll go back, chop up. Doesn't even have to use all the charges of the Corrupting Potion. Just has a great back timer, so might as well take advantage of that. But now allowing Crown to go back means he's going to shove another wave up. Try to interrupt the back here if he can. Trouble bubble at least forces him to walk, and there you go.
I mean, just look at what Ryoma's doing. It's because the early game was so beneficial to 100 Thieves. I mean, even just looking kind of across the map, like Wiggly hasn't crossed into River at all. Meteos is easily going to be able to get both Scuttle Crabs in this matchup, and Wiggly is kind of relegated to farming defensively in his jungle while his lanes kind of get punished early. If they're not down 1,000 gold by the time the first dragon goes down, it's probably an accomplishment based on what happened early.
Yeah, and you can see there Someday managed to get the Phase Breaker onto Ruin, hit him with 4 auto attacks in the meantime. Bottom side 2v2 is going to be breaking out. But Smoothie's very tanky on the Leona between Aftershock and the flat damage reduction of the Eclipse. The champion is just so hard to burst down.
Yeah, and what Six mentioned in the interview in terms of it being a composition that wants to dive in, I'm a little conflicted on that comment actually, because all of their damage dealers are ranged. The utility, the jungle support role, yes, they are melee, but they can still play to peel if they so choose. So I'm really curious to see how CLG will approach the rest of this game, knowing the early game didn't necessarily allow them to be aggressive. I mean, if Meteos doesn't get a successful gank off before the Aphelios, Leona, and Kale hit level 6, then I'm really curious to see how team fights will go, depending on if CLG tries to engage or just continue to play defensively.
And also, I mean, you have the ability for Someday to use the ultimate on set to try to grab one of these targets and just slam them into the back line.
Yeah.
But because your top laner on the Kale isn't going to be one of those huge meatball super tanks, you've got a Leona, but these days Leona's rushing Gargoyle Stoneplate. So if you don't wait for her to hit that active before slamming her into the back line, you're not going to get a lot of damage from that game.
Yeah, Crown as well, hitting level 6 and getting a lot of culling damage. Things are recovering for the CLG early game. You can see the Lucian being able to have positive trades into the Zoe. It's fairly easy for Crown to dodge most of the Zoe skill shots. Pretty surprised that Meteos didn't go for any type of early play, especially when Ryoma was able to push Crown in early, some type of 4-man dive on the flashless healless Stixxay. But those 5 minutes of flash cooldown are gone, so at this point, the map is reset 6.5 minutes in, almost as if nothing had happened.
Yeah, 100 Thieves had a few hundred gold in a lead there a few moments ago, but now that is pretty much tied up. CLG back to even standing there with them. Looking at the inventories of the junglers, you can see Meteos is going to be going for that Cinder Hulk build here on the Jarvan. Says the team has enough damage with the Xayah, with the Zoe, wants to make sure he can be frontlining there, initiating and not immediately blowing up. And the call from 100 Thieves is, let's go for the Drake.
Yeah, it is the safe play to take in this situation. There's still basically no vision for CLG. They are very clearly signaling that they're okay with this lane and they're not really going to do anything. And I'm going to be interested to track that as this game progresses, because when I watched a lot of CLG in week 1, where statistically they were just the worst team in the league. Their gold at 15 was bad. They, I think, had 10 kills and 32 deaths overall. They really just lost fairly badly in both games, even if there were a few close team fights in the Dignitas game. But the biggest problem for them was communication and synergy. So we haven't seen that yet because they haven't tried to do anything together. They're literally just laning, and that's working okay for them. But once the plays start, I want to see where the synergy is.
See if a play gets made here in the bottom side. That brush is currently home to a couple of players, but won't be much longer. Wiggly will make his way back to the base. Going to go ahead, recall, shop up, grab a couple of control wards here on the Rex side. Considering people are nearing that level 6 point, you can see solo laners already up to level 7. Junglers now starting to hit level 6. Meteos has the Cataclysm available. Bot lanes will be hitting it soon. I'm looking to see those plays finally start. Both teams have been happy to just say, okay, play the early game very slow. Let's not risk anything. Let's not go for any hyphy moves. But I want to start seeing those advantages being attempted here.
I mean, it's interesting because if the junglers aren't going for plays, the Kayle set lane doesn't create action on its own.
Right.
Ruin is playing that very defensively. The Xayah Rakan matchup versus the Leona is interesting because if the Rakan tries to go in, that's when Smoothie's more likely to be able to turn something. And since Smoothie was behind, he hasn't decided to go in either. So it's like two of the lanes that 100 Thieves have a bit of a difficulty playing aggressive early without jungle intervention.
Right.
And Meteos hasn't tried to do anything. So we're at a kind of a standstill because Meteos hasn't initiated any plays.
Ruin continuing to just shove up here in the top side. You can see him building up a CS advantage for himself. 81 to 66. Has a couple extra minions alive here that Someday will be able to farm up. Someday with a Mercury Treads rush, making sure that when you're in that melee versus range matchup, especially when you have incredibly limited mobility on your champion's kit, the boots go a long way in making sure you don't just constantly get kited to death. So he's got that bit of a movement speed advantage over his opponent for now, but still going to find himself hurt with those ranged auto attacks.
Exactly. Now the Ruin's level 6 and he's gone lifesteal. I really don't know what Sunday's going to do in that matchup. It seems like Kayle is a really good counter pick. But here's what I want to see next, actually. I want to see 100 Thieves go for Rift Herald. They already controlled the first dragon. It's 2.5 minutes before the cloud goes. That's when you take your bot lane, you rotate up. It's interesting because Cody Stunt isn't a teleport bot laner, but I think the correct play actually would be to send both Cody and Stunt to Rift Herald and move Someday bottom lane. Because Someday's not going to be able to do anything into Kayle anyway, so you may as well make them start swapping around. But instead, if they can get away with just sending Meteos there, it's fine. But even if we look on the minimap, actually, like, he's getting pushed off it because they didn't send their bot lane there.
Yep, Meteos is forced to throw the flag over the wall, has to go after that one to get away, and the Rift Herald's just going to reset. CLG not willing to try to commit to that one, risk drawing 100 Thieves back in and have some sort of a fight break out. They don't want that. Instead, they'll just waste Meteos' time, and he's still got really nothing accomplished. He's 10 CS up above his opponent, but not making a whole lot happen here just yet. Stixay there on the bottom side. Stunt going in, looking to make the play with the quickness, but a nice flash away from Stixay keeps him alive, and a TP comes down to the bottom lane from Crown.
Yeah, that was a good flash from Stixay. The punish there by 100 Thieves, since Smoothie did disrupt the Rift Herald, was to try that, but just overall, CLG is happy with this holding pattern.
Oh, CLG is not happy about that. Ryoma!
Meteos?
The stopwatch might be able to do it. Meteos! He goes too early! Dinner is served! First blood for Wiggly.
Ryoma did 99.5% of the work. And during the stopwatch, Meteos just needed the flag. He didn't even need the drag. The flag was enough. But he dragged his way into giving up first blood. So that is so incredibly beneficial for CLG. Crown could have gotten basically solo killed, did not. The Rift Herald could have gone over to 100 Thieves if they would have just sent their bottom lane like a lot of teams do when they're trying to cycle objectives. But now, the Crown not only didn't die, but they can keep the Kayle versus set lane. It's even bigger. This is Ryoma. Let's watch this. He has Proto Belt, so he knows he can burst. Gets a good sleep, gets the electrocute, Proto Belt, gets the auto attacks, and there he's just trying to get the baby Sheen proc from his ultimate. Oh, no.
It's so tragic. Oh, you're question mark pinging that one if you're Ryoma.
Oh, man. There's a lot of different ways that could have been a kill.
But
we don't need to go over
coulda,
all
woulda,
of them.
shoulda. What actually happened is the fact that it's first blood over to CLG. Wiggly's got that extra money now on his Rek'Sai. We'll see what kind of advantages they're able to build with that. CLG on the Rift Herald. It's stunt nearby. 100 Thieves contemplating stopping this, but it doesn't look like they have the manpower available. Instead, they will trade objectives. The Rift Herald over to CLG. The second Drake over to 100 Thieves. Mountain will be the element that takes over Summoner's Rift this time. Extra terrain being added, which is honestly really nice for Zoe. Gives you some extra terrain to fire those bubbles through in the jungle.
Very true. It gives you a lot more travel time if Ryoma is going to be looking for picks. And 100 Thieves at this point is really trying to make a play. They know the Rift is going to be dropped somewhere, so they're going to try and at least start to match here. Ruin, though, with the map pressure and Meteos shown bottom lane, this is just Rift top lane. They're going to try and kill the plate before dropping Rift, or maybe just kill Sunday.
Looks like the dive could be the choice here. Ulti coming out from the Kale onto Wiggly. He wants to dive through, find the execution onto Sunday. But this is how Set outplayed. You do not respect the haymaker, you get smacked.
Oh, man. Big play by Someday. CLG could have just dropped the Rift Herald and gotten 4 plates. That was a possibility. Instead, they are unable to burst before the haymaker comes out. That's exactly Set's wheelhouse, as you mentioned. It's people running into him and trying to dive it. He's not good at creating his own plays. Big turnaround there by 100 Thieves. Not only does Someday get the double kill, it repels the push top lane and they get first turret. We're going to watch this one more time. He'd used the haymaker, so they think, hey, it's down, time to dive, but he's maxing it. So it's only an 8-second cooldown. It comes back up as Wiggly is in the air. And then since Ruin had already used his ultimate for the preemptive dive, he goes down as well.
20% cooldown already on Someday because of the Black Cleaver means it's also reduced to 6.4.
Yep.
It's up deceptively soon, and you must respect it playing against this champion. That's the ability that every set outplay revolves around. CLG don't quite time it correctly, and now both the plays coming out from these teams have been mistakes from the other side.
The idea was right.
Yeah.
They could have executed that dive better and likely gotten a 1-for-0 or a 1-for-1 and then dropped Rift and taken the turret for free, but the execution is wrong. And then Meteos as well. Ryoma made a good play, but was unable to capitalize. Now they're going for Someday again. He does still have W and ultimate.
All right, he's going to bring Wiggly back one more time. He'll get himself away. This is the problem. A lot of times, people want to position behind their opponents because that's the best way to block up their escape route. But with Set, it lets him just grab you and say, all right, we're going this way, buddy.
Yeah, it takes him right back into the turret. It makes Wiggly ineffective. But they are still getting a large amount of gold into Ruin, and that ultimately will be more of the late game. Turret plates are 5-2. That could have been a lot better with this Rift. But now, second charge is going to be the majority of this turret. Could be a little greedy, but they decide not to go for more.
They've got Smoothie on the side. In case the Thieves try to collapse, CLG will have 3 bodies to resist that one with. However, backing away means they're not interested any longer here in the mid lane. 6A is just going to be shoving up there with the Infernum. Aphelios now with Essence Reaver completed in inventory. He's got the first item fully done there. You can see that Cody's son stopped off to fully complete his Berserker Greaves, also go for an extra Dorian's Blade, so he doesn't quite have the same first item power spike here just yet, but that'll be coming online real soon.
And I'm really interested to see the team fight that will likely happen in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Kind of going through in my head how each team should try and play it. Because on one hand, CLG says, hey, we need to get on a Cody or Ryoma.
Yeah.
Cody has cleanse, and he's likely going to be positioned somewhere in the back line. If you get too close, somebody's just going to take you even further back and you're going to die. Right? So it's difficult for CLG to engage safely. And then on the other side, for 100 Thieves, their initiation with Meteos being a little bit far behind, trying to engage into a Kale and a Kiting Lucian is a little bit dangerous. But when I try and kind of put everything together, it would be Stunt and Meteos going for Stixxay. That's kind of how their fight should play out the most. But that does make it, again, more difficult for Set. So we'll see how Set ends up playing as we get this Drake now in 45 seconds.
And we're also at the point where there's been a conversation, me and Kobe had a slide about it on this or that this week, with what's better, going for plates or going for Drakes. And when you're the team that gets the 2 early Drakes, your opponents are now in the spot where you start thinking, okay, we can't just let all these slide anymore. CLG's in that spot. Thieves, if they lose one, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But if you lose this next one as CLG, that means your opponents are on that sole point, and you've got to be so respectful from that point on.
Yeah, and CLG should be okay just poking Meteos or Someday from range without hard engaging. That's kind of the way they try and win. So Crown is staying in mid lane to try and get mid priority, and CLG doesn't want to cede control of this river just yet, because then they'd have inside track on the Drake. Watching what 100 Thieves is doing, though, is they want to threaten the turret to make CLG come towards them.
Stixxay currently with the Crescendum and the Gravitum means he's got some CC potential. He's got some powerful burst with the turrets as well. We'll see how they're able to play around those guns here in the upcoming fight. Ryoma with a Chilling Smite also locked in. Smoothie able to find some CC onto Ryoma, but now the fight's going to be breaking out. Someday looking to tank a lot. He's bursted down before the haymaker comes through. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but the Thieves are on their back foot. A nice bit of burst coming down onto Smoothie. Wiggly is the one who died on CLG, though, and without your jungler, the objective becomes less appealing.
There's a chance they just reset this since Smoothie is pretty low and Ryoma's going to be able to continue to poke. So this dragon fight isn't necessarily over yet. Smoothie trying to get the waves going, but Meteos knows, hey, I'm the only jungler alive. Let's make something happen.
Ruin farming up bottom. He's going to walk right into this brush. Meteos is going to find him there.
He still has ult.
Flag and drag for the knockup. Ruin looking to outplay this one. Not able to.
Ult.
Does not ult himself.
And he's second now.
And all right, we'll put that one in the same box as Double Lift Flash.
To be fair, I think he was dead either way since his team wasn't able to completely follow through River, and you can't auto-attack in the 1.5 second cast time of your ultimate. So I may have set the expectations a little early, but that was just a smidgen off for CLG, which is, I think, the polite way of putting their season so far, where they had a lot of things going their way when they had Meteos' flash down and they have a Gunblade Kayle who can help sustain. They could have gained mid priority while waiting for Wiggly to spawn and then moved down to Drake if Meteos tried to solo it. But instead, they split up. Ruin ends up getting killed, and the third Drake of the game goes over 100.
3 Drakes means if 5 minutes from now they get that last one, it's Mountain Soul, which is that persistent shield that regenerates out of combat, will make their champions that much harder to burst, and it means a solid initiation from Smoothie is not going to mean as much if you can't get through that extra bit of health that's going to be surrounding the 100 Thieves members. CLG will have to pay so much attention to that as we move forward. Stopwatch counts. The front line, the initiators of CLG, the Rek'Sai and the Leona, both have the stopwatch. They can go in, drop the aggro. If you look over at 100 Thieves, it's Cody's son who's got one on this Xayah. Makes him that much harder to dive, makes it that much more difficult for CLG to get rid of one of those super valuable targets that you mentioned in the Zoe and the Xayah together. That's really all the damage here on this team, unless you stand in a haymaker.
Yeah, and CLG will need to continue to try and scale up while defending this Baron. There's a lot of golden inventory right now, actually, for both Crown and Stixxay. So they want to try and get those recalls off without losing mid-turret. Once mid-turret goes down, they're going to end up losing a lot more. But Ruin scaling up more and more towards level 16. If he hits that point, CLG still has a good chance of winning. They just would like to prevent the Dragon Soul from happening before then.
CLG looking for that mid priority here now, shoving the wave up. Tier 1 turret still with half HP on the side of 100 Thieves. They'll continue defending that one pretty easily. It's a 2-to-1 turret lead for the Thieves. That's pretty much where their gold lead is coming from right now. Only 1,000 separates the two squads here 21 minutes into the game. 100 Thieves still have that topside river priority. They'll clear out some wards in their opponent's jungle, making it that much scarier for CLG to check into that area of the map. CLG's mid lane turret also still standing, so both sides looking to whittle these down and just get the extra map control that provides.
Yeah, and it looks like everyone got their recalls in before defending the turret. It's always kind of interesting, but hard to pay attention to, the timing of recalls.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, like, the synchronized recall can be an amazing offensive weapon because everyone resets at the same time and they go and re-attack the map. When you're on the defensive, asynchronous recalls are better, because if they would have recalled everyone at once, they would have lost the turret.
Yeah.
But by desyncing them, they've kept the turret at 75% health, and now everyone has their items.
Especially when you've got a champion like Aphelios with the Infernum, it's super easy to just have one guy clear out the whole thing, as long as your opponents don't have Baron. And one interesting point about Baron that I think I saw in a discussion last week was the removal of the old Mountain Drake, the one that added the true damage to objectives, removed a lot of those 21, 22, 23-minute Baron plays that we saw in Season 9, because you just don't have the damage to safely do it.
And something that exacerbated that was all the Senna we saw.
Yeah.
An AD carry without attack speed trying to do Baron when you got like a LeBlanc on your team as well. It wasn't working. And it's still slow, even though Xayah is a fairly fast Baron killer. But like, this team comp, I'd say, would be a medium Baron team for 100 Thieves. By no means are you panicking if the other team is in fog for 5 seconds. It increases the importance on getting a Dragon Soul or being able to play the game without Baron and, you know, go side to side for picks. So for now, CLG is just trying to make sure they're not face checking anywhere, because that's the only thing that'll really give over Baron is if they over-engage and lose a team fight.
Someday wandering through his jungle here. CLG has some vision on him. They got 3 guys nearby, but again, This is not the dude you want to pile in on,
Yeah.
especially with allies nearby. Almost impossible to burst him when he's building health, when he's got the Haymaker shield. It's so much.
Did we announce that it is Saturday? Was that part of the pregame show, or was that
No.
just a? I just want to do a set check-in.
He's
Like, it's the first game. I want to give like a letter grade
Freak
to the
is
pick
on
so
the
far.
desk. We can't do the puns here.
Okay, it is Saturday, the first day of set.
I accept that so
Okay.
much more willingly.
Okay, I think it's been pretty underwhelming in this game.
Yeah.
I really do like the pick that Ruin has into it. The laning phase was completely unpunished. The only reason Sunbay's in the game, actually, is because they tried a two-man dive. They easily could have killed this turret without giving him 2 kills if they played more defensively. And then we'd be talking about how far behind set is as Kale scales up. So we'll see what happens throughout as they're trying to make a fight happen mid.
Ryoma flashing away. It is his real flash. Smoothie going to be kept alive in the middle by the Kale ultimate. 100 Thieves looking to turn this one around. Nice engage there by Stunt. CC locking up CLG. They're on the retreat now. Culling's going to take Stunt very low. 100 Thieves not finding any kills here just yet, but a nice drowsy there.
Someone's
On
got
the
blocked.
CLG lines. Crown getting himself out just barely with the flash.
Oh man, that was such a well-played fight by 100 Thieves, repelling the initiation from CLG basically effortlessly. Cody Sun didn't have to use all or cleanse, and now 100's very easily going to get this Drake, you would think.
Drake's Soul at 24 minutes is a huge power spike here for 100 Thieves. It also means Elder's going to be on the table very early in this game if they get it. CLG, they have to realize what's going on, but at the same time, they know that there's nothing they can do to stop it. Wiggly's not in any shape to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Dragon Soul for 100 Thieves.
Well played by them. Week 1, 100 Thieves, 1 dragon. Week 2, 4 times as many dragons.
In one game.
Improvement. That's the up and to the right type of improvement you like to see. They had an early focus on the objective control. That's where Meteos was spending most of his early time, and 25 minutes in, you see the payoff. Mountain Soul completed, Baron still up on the map.
You can see all those shields hanging out on the health bars. It'll make the start of these fights that much easier for these guys. Elder Drake spawning 5.5 minutes from now. Remember in Season 9, Elder Drake could only spawn as early as 35. This game, we're going to have him spawning before 31, as 100 Thieves now look to make the pick onto Ruin. A lot of damage coming out there. The ulti does show up, but it's only going to buy him a moment longer. And Smoothie, man, what are you doing coming up there? It's a 1v3. You aren't saving nobody, and that's just 300 gold more for the Thieves.
That looked like tilt to me.
Yeah.
That was just classic. You see your top laner's in trouble. He's living longer than you expect him to live. That's why you poke your head out. You think, oh, maybe.
Could I help? Could I save him?
He's going to be really mad if I don't help.
Well, unfortunately, 1 down means your opponents have Baron control. 2 down means your opponents feel comfortable starting up the Baron. And CLG says, all right, this is just another one we have to concede. And I talked about mistakes being made early on in the game. The first 2 plays for both sides just being punishes of the other. 100 Thieves are the ones who are going unpunished now. They're the ones continuing, though, to find the weaknesses in CLG.
Absolutely. And 100 Thieves now in full control of the game should look to set up with cannon minions and just kind of poke down at turrets. Watch this one more time. Ruin was just trying to push out the wave, but completely desynced with the rest of his team. Does all. Smoothie was on a ward anyway, but as he walked towards, that kind of allows Meteos to be in engaged range. 100 Thieves times, flash timers as well. They know Leona has no flash. That's why Meteos was so confident just flash ulting. Smart, kill secure into the Baron.
And now the question is, how much can they get with it? Baron power play. We got 2 minutes left on the buff. They're currently at just the base plus 1,500 that the buff itself gives. Let's see how many of these turrets they can knock down. All 3 of the tier 2 turrets of CLG are still standing. Typically, once you get a Baron buff, those are just free money.
Yeah, and CLG is just trying to do as much split push as possible. This is likely a conceded inhibitor if they keep these lane assignments in an attempt of getting 1 or 2 turrets of their own. Not the worst play if they're scaling for late game, because it does actually give them gold.
Yeah. Well, 100 Thieves are going to take this bottom side inhibitor turret pretty easily. Inhibitor now under fire. Meteo's going to be joining these guys from behind to make sure if there was any sort of a collapse coming from the side of CLG, it's not going to succeed.
You do have to eventually go back to your base, though. That's the thing with these Drakes.
Can't just let it go all the way. Ulti comes in from Aphelios. It's the Infernum ult, but it doesn't find a whole lot of anything.
Yeah, it looked like the Mountain Soul absorbed it all.
Yeah.
So
That's the power of having that at 24 minutes into the game. Tier 2 turret now under fire. 100 Thieves looking to make even more happen. Sunday's the one who's brought the wave up. The rest of the Thieves will join. Cannon Minion will continue just shooting away at that turret. Aphelios turret's not going to do a whole lot either. And we'll see if they want to go for the last tier 2 in the top side or if they want to continue pushing for inhib number 2. Looks like it is that second option.
I want to see Someday blocking shots for that cannon as much as possible, but it does look like they're just kind of daring CLG to engage, which is the correct play.
Dog piling in, 100 Thieves, no fear here. Inhibitor number 2 taken out. That is a successful Baron power play.
It is. The goal doesn't show it because they did trade turrets, but the objectives overall, getting 2 inhibitors, is a definite worth in terms of what Baron power plays are. And because 100 Thieves has all these advantages, I think a lot of it is just about kind of walking around, posturing and pushing CLG off of spots. I still kind of want to see a fight to see if 100 Thieves can engage on CLG without CLG running into them, right? All of these fights have been Smoothie and Wiggly diving in, burning a Kale ultimate during the initiation, and then getting counter-engaged on. Because CLG, with now a level 16 Kale, approaching 3-item Lucian and Aphelios, should have a bunch of damage with which to actually cut through 100 Thieves. Just none of the fights have played out that way. I think the win condition for CLG would be somehow keeping this third inhibitor alive, hitting 3 items on Lucian and Aphelios, and just not engaging. Just forcing 100 Thieves to come to them until they're at, you know, the triple ranged carry threat that could shred through.
Well, you really can't afford to be 3 inhib with Elder Drake spawning in 1 minute. Being stuck in your base, Elder Drake is such a powerful buff. It's pretty much a death sentence. And CLG will make their stand. They'll force 100 Thieves back. They'll save that tier 3 turret for now, but it's only barely hanging on. The Zoe bubbles, the paddle stars just keep flying in. The poke is coming. Wiggly answering the mid lane push, but that means 100 Thieves do have a 5v4 advantage here at the start. There it is. Someday's going in. The damage comes through. Stun's follow-up is down, and so are 2 members of CLG. Crowd tries to run it away, but Someday's looking to go deeper. He's taken down. It's a double kill for Cody Stun. Crowd looking to outplay. Good lord, man. Ruin's got a triple.
Even with Stixay getting blown up at the start of the fight, you got to see the power of the level 16 Kale. So Flowers, that's how CLG has to fight.
You can't spell scale without Kale. CLG is online.
Notice how that time CLG didn't try to engage on backline. They just did their best to peel. So they didn't even do a great job of that. Like Stixay and Wiggly weren't there, but Ruin has his ultimate for a key moment there where he keeps Crown alive for a really long time. Someday and Cody Sun both use a bunch of their spells, and Ruin is just able to free hit down the stretch. On top of that, they're gonna go for Elder here.
Oh, this could be huge. If
they gotta go fast.
Gives this one away,
they gotta go fast.
This is tragic. Elder taken very low. That is an Elder Drake for Counter Logic Gaming. 3 minutes now where they have the strongest team fight buff in the game.
That's where you check all chat to see if they say winnable. Because they were down 2 inhibs. Sure, Baron's up in 45 seconds, but they've actually had a window to push out those waves substantially. They still have both of their Nexus turrets, so it's okay if a Super Minion temporarily crashes. This is where you're trying to rally the troops and get out to Baron, but it doesn't look like the timing quite works out.
Richest man in the game is still Cody Sun, but 100 gold behind him is Ruin on this late game champion. Transcendent on the Kale means he is ready to go. Look at the items. Nashor's Tooth, Rage Blade, Gunblade. More AP coming through now. We'll see how scary this is for 100 Thieves.
One team has Elder, the other doesn't. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, you've really got to respect that 20% execute. It means a lot. We are going to see a Drowsy find its way onto Smoothie, but no further damage going to be coming his way just yet. Baron alive now.
The term I haven't used much, but front to back is the way that CLG needs to play these fights. Kill the front line first, then kill the back line. Don't go crazy and try to get onto Cody Sun with Cleanse or Ioma. If Someday is trying to dive you, just kill him and kite back as much as possible, because over time their damage will ramp. They have 3 items on Aphelios and 3.5 on Kale.
CLG looking strong. This is the first time this game we've seen them really in control. They're the ones pushing 100 Thieves back by advancing forward. In they go. Smoothie looking for some sort of initiation, but a nice disengage there from Ryoma with the Sleepy Trouble bubble. And CLG says, come get it.
50-50.
We're on the
They're
Baron.
forced here. The Super Minions are pushing down in the bottom lane, so they feel like they have to go.
Super Minion's going to continue pushing up, though. That inhibitor has respawned, but how long will it stand? Fight's going to be breaking out. Stunt is caught out. The quickness comes through, but he is bursted down. Ruin's got the kill, but the inhibitor collapses in the bottom lane.
No one on CLG has TP, so if someone goes back, they have to walk. And that's going to let 100 Thieves start on Baron, even though they're there. Still 50 seconds on Elder, so again, with slow Baron as well, you don't want to commit to that.
This is why control over the map can mean so much. Even though it looks like CLG are the winner of the fight, it's a missed inhibitor. It's a downed turret at the Nexus for them as the consequence. Oh, this one's on a knife's edge, man. I love this kind of legal edge.
Track this Super Minion as it walks through, because when that hits the Nexus, CLG has to go back. So they have that much time to do something at Baron.
Here we go. There's still only 4 members alive, 100 Thieves. Stunt has just now respawned. He'll be making his way towards the fight. The call from CLG is stay on the Baron.
Poke.
Elder Drake gone in 10 seconds. The poke.
There he is.
Taking Wiggly way too low. And the Super Minion is knocking on the 100 Thieves door.
Time's up. Baron goes back over to 100
On the
Thieves.
CLG door.
Yeah, there we go.
It's the 100 Thieves minion. I had him crisscross there, but either way, it's 100 Thieves going for Baron number 2 this game, and that means they're going to be wearing purple for yet another base push.
It's going to be a real interesting end, Flowers, no matter what happens, because CLG has hit some of the item power spikes. You can see how much damage they have. It's actually one of the best possible compositions to play against Mountain Soul, if that makes sense, because the compositions that are like full flank, full assassin are really bad against Mountain.
Right.
The full poke compositions are really bad against Mountain. The best you can say would be the ones with high amounts of sustained damage.
Yeah.
And that's what CLG has here. So if 100 Thieves doesn't get good kills on their original initiation, and if CLG doesn't overcommit, then they can power through that Mountain Soul and still get kills. But Smoothie's thinking about a flank. I think that'll be a very bad idea.
Well, he just walked into the minions as well, so they saw him there. They know what's up. CLG won't have the element of surprise on their side. Trouble Bubble finds Smoothie, and Meteos is nearby. No, this is not what you want to see.
This.
Flash already. He's trapped in the Cataclysm. It is tragedy, and no other word can apply for CLG fans right there as Smoothie gets himself caught out.
Big mistake by CLG with 1 minute and 30 seconds before Elder, waiting until the other team pushes in. They clearly have a different idea of how to play the game. They're still trying to push for these flanks, for these strong initiations, rather than just trying to push 100 Thieves back as a united front. They get caught during the flank. Now Hunter's trying to push for the win.
100 Thieves looking to go in. Sunday's going to be taken low here on the front side. Stasis coming through, but Ruin's exploded. There is no Kale ultimate. There is no salvation. And 100 Thieves will push for the win right now. One pick in the jungle sets it all up. The fantastic start of the team fight shuts the Kale down. And 100 Thieves will take that Nexus.
Mountain Soul, 2-1 start for 100 Thieves. They kept their heads throughout the game. Cody's son carrying from the back. They found the fights when they needed to, and they win.
There you go. I said these teams were looking for their first win where they looked solid. 100 Thieves looking good there. They did lose out on the Elder Drake. That got scary for a moment, but for controlling all 4 elementals, both Barons, and being the team that played cohesively better to stick it out and make things happen in the end, that's a good one.
You can see some smiles on Meteos, finding pick after pick onto Smoothie whenever Smoothie would try and make a play. So good vision control overall by 100 Thieves, playing a very controlled style. I think long-term, 100 Thieves would like to find a way to play a little bit more aggressive. Had a few missteps here, but ultimately what matters is that they're picking up wins.
Yeah.
And 2-1 is a good start for the year.
And I need to give credit to Ryoma here. 4-0-7 on the Zoe by the end of the game. 11 out of 14 kill participation. And it's his bubbles, it's his paddle stars, the poke that kept CLG off the Baron when they were trying to go for that when their base was under pressure. Him constantly just finding the ability to get some critical chunks on the CLG members before fights. That's what I think really was the difference maker in so much of this game.
Yeah, and I think if you look over at the CLG side, it will continue to be a work in progress. I think they had some ways to win this game. I thought the Kale pick was extremely good. You could see how much team fight damage they had down the stretch, but unable to get any of the normal Drakes before Elder, unwilling to do a 50-50 Baron. I think they really had to just go for a 50-50 Baron, because once that happened, they just got caught flank initiation after flank initiation, and they're just not as clean as a top team is going to be, and that's making them lose these games.
And I'm really particularly looking at Smoothie for this. Both the time in top lane where his top laner's dead to rights, he goes up there, gives away an extra free kill. That gives 100 Thieves the first Baron, and then him getting caught in the jungle at the very end of the game gives them the win. Two very critical points of the match that Smoothie's going to have to reflect on and make sure his positioning is better in future games.
Yeah, thinking about Smoothie, thinking about Ruin, who had some really big moments, but also a few with the first Rift Herald in the top lane, with getting caught out when Smoothie died, with getting caught out at the end before using his ultimate. That was a very close and competitive game, but I think the experience and the cohesion of 100 Thieves led them to victory.
And for more on that victory, Obli is now standing by with the bubble bouncer for 100 Thieves.
Thanks, guys. 2-1 to the start of week 2 for you and 100 Thieves. Ryoma, congratulations. This is now your second week playing in the LCS on your new team. So how has everything been so far?
Everything's been pretty great. Everyone's been really supportive, even though I had that rough week 1. Everyone's like still just stuck through it, and we worked really hard this week, and I'm really proud of my team.
And speaking of being supportive, I've spoken with some of your teammates, and they've said that you are learning incredibly fast at 100 Thieves. So what's the most beneficial contribution to your growth?
I think just being surrounded by great people, like 100 Thieves, my teammates, my coach staff, like they all help me. They're all really supportive, and they always make sure that I'm always trying my hardest, and they always make sure I'm on point.
And one of your teammates, I went ahead and I watched this week's heist, and it looks like Meteos is really contributing a lot of humor and kind of entertainment to the team, kind of like that mid lane dive on Crown. So I wanted to ask you, what's it like to have that kind of atmosphere for someone on the team?
Will was one of my first teammates that I've actually really talked to, and I thought he was a really great person. He just always made sure because I'm really shy at the start, so he just made sure I got out of my comfort position, and he always he's just a really great guy. It feels good to be around him.
Awesome, well, Ryoma, thank you so much, and wishing you the best of the luck with your next game this week. That is it for us on the stage, but for everyone else, stick around because we're going to see Team Liquid take on Dignitas.